Hey y'all, welcome to my YouTube channel where we learn together, take action together, and reflect together. My name is Tamira and thank you so much for being here. This is episode 3 of the Memphis-Shelby County Schools Superintendent Evaluation Process series. In this series, I break down the district's process for evaluating Dr. Fagans and offer insights into her performance so far. Today, we're talking about the evaluation competency staff relations. Be sure to check out previous episodes in the series if you need to get caught up. On today's agenda, I'll explain what staff relations means and why it's crucial to our school district's success. Then I'll guide you through the key criteria typically used to assess a superintendent's effectiveness in this area and how we can measure success. Finally, we'll examine some of Dr. Fagans' actions as superintendent and discuss how those efforts reflect her progression in staff relations. If you want to deepen your understanding of the evaluation competency staff relations and the work Superintendent Fagans is doing in this area, then hop in the car and let's ride. Before we get into it, I have some updates. The evaluation committee met for the second time on September 30th. Commissioner Coleman opened the meeting by emphasizing the evaluation process results from following board policy and from following Superintendent Fagans' contract. Commissioner Coleman highlighted that the process is crucial as every employee deserves a fair evaluation. Tamika Hart-Wigington echoed this, noting that the evaluation must happen annually and the board is doing the right thing by adhering to policy and by adhering to the superintendent's contract. Tamika also reminded everyone that she had advised the board back in May 2024 to begin establishing the evaluation process, underscoring the importance of not waiting to determine how success will be measured. The board's policy requires that the superintendent's evaluation be conducted annually with specific objectives and collaboration with the superintendent. According to Dr. Fagans' contract, the evaluation should be completed no later than May 1st. And since she only began her role in April 2024, it wouldn't have made sense to evaluate her after just 1 month. But the current evaluation process being developed will likely be used to evaluate Dr. Fagans by May 1st of 2025. In addition to the formal evaluation, Dr. Fagans' contract mandates a mid-year informal evaluation within 6 months of the annual review. Though the policy doesn't require this informal evaluation, Dr. Fagans' contract does, and the board members applauded her for including this in her contract, considering how previous superintendents had not done the same. The informal evaluation is expected to take place sometime in November of 2024, with the formal evaluation again following in May 2025. During the evaluation process planning meeting, the board also discussed the weight assigned to each evaluation competency. They agreed that student achievement will weigh 25%, business and finance at 20%, board and government relations at 20%, staff relations at 20%, and community relations at 15%. Tamika raised an important point about the current evaluation instrument, noting that the last 3 superintendents each received high ratings, close to 5 out of 5, despite ongoing student struggles. What this tells us is that the system has not figured out how to effectively evaluate the superintendent's impact on student outcomes. Tamika also emphasized that superintendents typically don't lose their jobs because students struggle academically. They tend to lose their jobs due to board relations or other incidents. And so if the evaluation ratings aren't truly tied to student success, then what are they measuring? That's something for all of us to think about. The next steps included sending the proposed competency weights to the superintendent for her feedback, and the board also requested 2 to 3 quantitative measures for the priorities the district has listed in the budget. The last update I have for you is that I've organized and synthesized my detailed notes from the last few board meetings, and they are now available on my website. You can sign up for my newsletter, which is linked in the description box below, and I'll send them directly to your inbox after each board meeting. All right, so let's get into staff relations. Staff relations refers to the ongoing efforts and practices a leader, like a superintendent, undertakes to build positive, productive, and supportive relationships with school district employees, including teachers, administrators, and support staff. Staff relations focuses on fostering a healthy work environment where staff feel valued, respected, and empowered to contribute to the organization's goals. Strong staff relations positively impact a school district by improving employee morale, engagement, and retention, which leads to better student outcomes and a more efficient collaborative work environment. Additionally, fostering trust and open communications between staff and leadership enhances the district's reputation and stability. A superintendent with strong staff relations develops good staff morale and loyalty to the system. They appropriately delegate authority to staff members. They have a proactive, consistent, fair, discreet, and impartial system for handling personnel matters. They implement a rigorous, accurate performance evaluation system. A superintendent with strong staff relations regularly visits buildings and classrooms and consistently attends special activities. They proactively work with union leadership to build relationships with staff groups, establish trust, and effectively share information in the bargaining process as appropriate. And they recruit and assign the best available personnel. So considering these specific criteria, how can we measure Dr. Fagan's success in staff relations? Let's start with developing good staff morale and loyalty to the system and appropriately delegating authority to staff members. We can measure both criteria by regularly administering anonymous surveys that assess job satisfaction, engagement, loyalty, and perception of autonomy and involvement in decision-making processes. These surveys should include questions about how safe, supported, and valued employees feel. It should include questions about leadership support, workload, and overall workplace culture. Beyond surveys, structured feedback sessions with school leaders, teachers, and support staff can provide qualitative insights into the district's culture, revealing whether staff feel loyal and committed to staying within the district. A healthy culture often reflects high staff retention rates and low absenteeism, while high turnover often signals low morale and dissatisfaction. We can also gather feedback during performance reviews, exit interviews, or open forums to help assess how supported staff feel within the system. Regarding developing staff morale and loyalty within the district, Dr. Fagans has faced significant challenges and notable efforts. The district's job restructuring plan is one of the most controversial initiatives. First, I want to acknowledge the significant impact this restructuring had on many employees. Having experienced job loss due to organizational restructuring, I understand the importance of clear, early, and frequent communication during these transitions, which is what I was able to experience during my transition. While salary decreases, title changes, and job losses are difficult, genuine empathy, effective communication, and thoughtful leadership can make a big difference. I've had numerous conversations with district employees or people connected to the district who have shared their perspectives. For many, the controversy surrounding the restructuring wasn't so much about what was done, but how it was done. Concerns about communication have been raised. Some have described Dr. Fagan's communication style as aggressive rather than empathetic or relational. Board members have received calls and emails from staff voicing concerns about communication, workload, responsibility, and micromanagement. This could speak to Dr. Fagan's ability to delegate authority to staff members appropriately. During one board meeting, Commissioner Love said she called Dr. Fagan to express her concerns about staff working excessive hours and receiving emails late into the night. She also advised Dr. Fagans to trust her team more, pointing out, along with Commissioner Williams, that micromanagement was becoming an issue. Commissioner Williams stated that he has notes of teachers complaining. Dr. Fagans responded to that, noting that teachers' associations have not shared those concerns with her, and she has notes saying the opposite. On the flip side, Dr. Fagan's senior leadership team members have offered a different perspective, praising and supporting Dr. Fagan's ability to foster growth and trust. They shared positive remarks such as, "Fagan's has allowed me to grow. She truly trusts her senior leaders to do the work. The team is assembled. We give her grace. We are still learning. The trust is there and it's growing every day. It's a refreshing opportunity to be a part of the team. And there's always room for improvement." And so there are plenty of anecdotes or personal stories about Dr. Fagan's leadership style and decision making, ranging from high praise to critical feedback. But what's missing is comprehensive data or verifiable evidence to support or refute these personal stories. I am not dismissing the value of personal stories. They do add important context and nuance to the discussion. However, there is a difference between anecdotes and hard evidence. And what we need, especially in assessing culture and climate, is more concrete data. It's easy to hear a handful of negative stories and conclude that Dr. Fagan's tenure has been unsuccessful, even if a broader set of evidence might tell a different story. Board members have mentioned receiving complaints and calls from staff, but without broader data, we can't honestly assess whether these represent isolated incidents or larger trends. As former Commissioner Woods wisely suggested, we need a system to consistently measure staff's feelings about their workplace environment. Dr. Fagans has acknowledged the importance of this and has committed to more regular communication, feedback loops, and staff surveys to ensure that input is gathered and incorporated into decision making. Dr. Fagans has admitted her mistakes, particularly regarding how she handled the initial job restructuring conversations or lack thereof, and she is committed to improving. She's also acknowledged the need to balance her workload and her senior leadership team's workload, which speaks to her willingness to grow in response to feedback. As mentioned in a previous video, we must support and hold Dr. Fagans accountable. And I hope that staff feels empowered to advocate for themselves and to speak up when they feel wronged or unfairly treated. In a conversation with someone who shared insights about the discontent among some central office employees and principals, I asked why those concerns weren't voiced. And the response was a fear of retaliation or reprimand. And while I can't speak to the specifics of how Dr. Fagans handles internal matters, as I'm not a district employee, I have heard her repeatedly state that she is not a retaliatory leader. And she emphasized that her doors are always open and she's committed to transparency and effective communication. And so I hope that the team feels empowered to hold her to that promise. Speaking of handling personnel matters, this is an essential area of leadership that can be measured by tracking how efficiently personnel issues like conflicts, complaints, promotions, dismissals, and grievances are addressed. To assess this, it's important to look at whether these matters are consistently handled within established timelines and according to policy. Gathering employee feedback through surveys or interviews can help determine how fairly and transparently issues like hiring, promotions, and terminations are managed. Additionally, evaluating HR data on grievances, complaints, and resolutions can provide insight into the system's effectiveness. Fewer complaints and quicker resolutions may indicate that personnel matters are being handled effectively. As highlighted by some comments made during board meetings, handling personnel matters might be an area for growth for Dr. Fagans. Commissioner Coleman, for instance, raised concerns about a number of vacancies caused by lost or incomplete paperwork. She also mentioned delays in onboarding teachers and registering students. Other board members echoed these concerns, pointing out that some applicants had complained about not receiving responses from HR. Dr. Fagans acknowledged that the HR process is lengthy and noted that the decision to make cuts in the HR department was made before her tenure began. She said she received information about the HR cuts via text messages. While she admitted there had been delays, Fagans emphasized that principals are beginning to see improvements in internal processes. She also admitted that the team has been part of the problem, noting that while the team is working hard, often on weekends, it's not enough. And many tasks still needed to be managed manually, contributing to delays and efficiencies in the system. And to address this, Dr. Fagans mentioned sharpening the team's skills and hiring more staff to handle these tasks better. There was also an incident involving school resource officers, and Dr. Fagans met with them to listen to their concerns, and she expressed her disappointment upon learning that the school resource officers had been trying to reach out to her, but her team did not relay the information. She immediately addressed the internal communication breakdown and assured everyone that it had been dealt with, promising that it would not happen again. And so this acknowledgement of challenges and her willingness to improve suggests that personnel management remains an ongoing focus for Dr. Fagans and her administration. Collaboration with union leadership and staff groups can be measured by tracking the frequency of meetings or negotiations between district leadership and union representatives. Regular, consistent meetings indicate a proactive approach to fostering communications. Another way to measure this collaboration is through surveys or interviews with union leaders and staff groups to assess communication effectiveness, transparency, and how well district leadership incorporates feedback into decision making. Monitoring the frequency of disputes and how quickly they are resolved can also provide valuable insights. A low rate of unresolved grievances or disputes signals effective collaboration and conflict resolution. Additionally, data from union satisfaction surveys can clearly indicate how well district leadership is managing collective bargaining agreements and addressing union concerns. Dr. Fagans has made significant strides in building strong, proactive relationships when working with the teachers union and other staff groups. One of the clearest examples is soon after Dr. Fagans assumed her role, a long-delayed meeting with the teachers union, initially scheduled for January of 2024, happened finally in April of 2024. This timely action demonstrated Dr. Fagans' commitment to open communication and collaboration. Dr. Fagans has emphasized the importance of the union as a partner in her work, often saying, "Everywhere she goes, the union goes." Furthermore, representatives from the teachers union have made public comments supporting Dr. Fagans, highlighting the strength of the relationship between the district leadership and union representatives. Public backing like this is a positive indicator of effective collaboration and mutual respect. To measure the effectiveness of a performance evaluation system, we can start by tracking how frequently and consistently all staff members' evaluations are completed on time. This ensures that evaluations are conducted as scheduled and that no staff members are overlooked. Another critical measure is reviewing the comprehensiveness and fairness of these evaluations by analyzing the criteria used, the quality of feedback provided, and whether evaluations offer actionable steps for growth. It's also important to track whether professional development plans or improvement initiatives are implemented based on the feedback from these evaluations, ensuring that the evaluations are not just formalities but actual tools for growth. Employee surveys about their grievances with the evaluation process can further determine whether they find it fair, constructive, and beneficial for their professional development. I don't have much detailed information about how performance evaluations are being implemented across the district. I do know that the 100-day plans for senior leadership were made available on the district's website, but it's unclear how those leaders will be evaluated. I haven't encountered much about the evaluation process for teachers or principals yet, but during the public comments at the September 24th board meeting, a teacher raised concerns about the current teacher evaluation system, emphasizing that evaluators should be required to provide evidence to support their ratings. The teacher suggested that the board review the policy to ensure greater transparency and fairness in the evaluation process. That said, Dr. Fagans has emphasized performance evaluation as a priority, with accountability being a central theme of her leadership. Early in her tenure, she requested briefing papers from senior leaders to assess their contributions to student outcomes. This focus on using data to drive leadership decisions shows Dr. Fagan's commitment to creating a fair and transparent evaluation system. We'll have to keep an eye out on how this process evolves, particularly how evaluations lead to tangible improvements in staff performance and student success. As it relates to conducting regular and purposeful visits to buildings and classrooms, we can track how often Dr. Fagans or regular staff members visit schools and classrooms. We can record attendance at school events, extracurricular activities, and community functions. There is evidence of Dr. Fagans visiting classrooms, including stepping in to be a substitute for the day. She has attended sporting events, special ceremonies, and important school milestones. She's also made it a requirement for her senior leadership team to visit schools multiple times during the week. It would be beneficial to collect qualitative feedback from principals, teachers, and staff on the purpose and outcomes of the visits. Were the visits seen as supportive and productive? Did they lead to actionable changes or improvements? We can measure whether these visits result in any follow-up actions or improvements. Are issues identified during these visits being addressed promptly? As it relates to recruitment and assignment of the best personnel, we can track key recruitment metrics such as time to hire, the number of applicants per job posting, and the number of hires who meet or exceed the qualifications for their roles. These metrics give us insight into how efficiently and effectively the recruitment process functions. Additionally, measuring the retention rates of new hires after their first year will help determine whether the district is successfully recruiting and retaining top talent. It's also essential to monitor the performance and progress of newly hired staff through early stage evaluations or probationary reviews. This ensures that recruits meet district standards and are a good fit for their positions. We can also track the diversity of new hires to ensure that recruitment practices are inclusive and reflect the broader community that the district serves. This promotes a more equitable and representative workforce. Feedback from principals and department heads is another critical metric. We can evaluate how well recruitment and assignment processes are working by gathering their insights on the quality of newly assigned staff and assessing whether personnel assignments align with the school or department's needs. Regarding recruiting and assigning new talent, Dr. Fagans has shown a strategic approach to delegating authority and placing highly qualified personnel in key roles within the district. She has introduced a new transformation office focusing on athletics, college, career, and technical education programs, and high priority schools, which she calls SOUP schools. The Assistant Superintendent of Schools now oversees the offices of teaching and learning, performance and leadership development, and curriculum, ensuring resources are better aligned with district goals. The Office of Strategy has also moved under the Office of the Superintendent to establish clear strategies for district progress and develop an internal report card for ongoing evaluation. Additionally, counseling, social work, and mental wellness services have been shifted to the charter school office under the assistant superintendent, while IT has moved under the assistant superintendent of operations. The director of literacy now reports directly to Dr. Fagans, demonstrating her commitment to literacy as a priority. The district hired Jermaine Johnson as the new communications director. One notable situation related to appropriately assigning personnel involved the resignation of the executive director of safety and security. Dr. Fagan explained that the initial offer of this new hire was based on the candidate's experience, but after learning more information, she decided to move in a different direction. Overall, based on the information I gathered, there are some strengths in staff relations, but also some opportunities to improve. In the budget, Dr. Fagans has listed goals related to staff relations as seen on the screen. But again, they are not measurable, and it's hard to determine success without metrics. And so I look forward to the strategic plan and what comes from it regarding staff relations. And that's all I have for now, y'all. I'd love to hear your thoughts. How do you feel about Dr. Fagan's performance in staff relations? How should we measure her progress in this area? Drop a comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you all for riding with me today. Keep learning, keep taking action, and keep reflecting. I love y'all. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time. Bye.